Now, I've asked this question before on a number of occasions, but just what the hell is going on in Australia with it becoming this hotbed for quack therapists and anti-vaxxers? So I've got an interesting story here from the Australian version of the Daily Telegraph, although they're essentially the same thing. So, my anti-vax mother-in-law from hell. She unwittingly married into a family of anti-vaxxers who not only denied her children vaccinations against childhood diseases, but also refused them conventional medicine when they were sick. Her husband even placed her under surveillance to ensure she did not follow a legitimate doctor's order, and her mother-in-law, an alternative medicine practitioner, administered a known poison to her children in the delusional belief that it was a natural remedy. Holistic medicine destroyed this Queensland mother's marriage, and her ability to safeguard her children is a constant struggle. Kelly, not her real name, has gone to the authorities, but they have let her down because the alternative health field is badly, if at all, regulated. It operates in a grey zone despite a growing body of evidence of the harms that have come from naturopaths, homeopaths and other alternative practitioners. That body of evidence includes the near death of a baby who nearly starved to death after a Sydney naturopath, Marilyn Bonar, advised the mother to go on a raw food and water only diet. Bonar pled guilty earlier this year to aiding and abetting and counselling or the mother to fail to provide the necessaries of life. Homeopaths dish out magic water claiming it can vaccinate against killer diseases, despite health authorities putting them on notice. They can continue to do it. In other words, someone has to die before something is done, and we've talked about this before, numerous occasions on this channel, that before someone actually dies, nothing is done. And it gets even worse, because just like a couple of days ago when we talked about the example of the UK chiropractor who killed someone, the Chiropractic General Council in the UK, the governing body responsible for regulating chiropractors, refused to take her licence. So when Kelly married her husband 12 years ago, it continues, she thought they shared the same values and beliefs. They even had pre-marriage counselling that explored their expectations. But the only thing that was not explored was the topic of vaccination. We were married believing we were basically on the same page. I got pregnant on the honeymoon, and soon after I was forced to confront the reality that the family I'd married into, the mother of 40, says, Kelly's mother-in-law is an alternative practitioner who offers an array of unproven therapies and concoctions, including banned products like black salve, an indiscriminately corrosive product that burns flesh, and chloride silver, a toxin when taken orally. Early in the piece, Kelly accepted a treatment with her new mother-in-law and was a little alarmed. There was a talk of AIDS being a man-made virus and the vaccinations used to spread the AIDS virus. Things got worse after her children came along. Kelly had wanted to vaccinate her children, but her husband and mother-in-law would not hear of it. Kelly went along with their wishes to keep the peace. I was not proud of my choices and I was upset. I had succumbed to family pressure and failed to advocate for my children. I feel like a fraud, she says. But both her children have medical issues. Her first son had serious behavioural problems identified as ADHD. When he started childcare, kindergarten, and then school, the truth became undeniable. Grade 1 was disaster. My son was suspended back-to-back several times for violence towards his classmates, teacher, and destroying the classroom. I knew that our son was diagnosed with ADHD. I could no longer avoid the fundamental ideological differences between my husband and I. On a paediatric's recommendation, stimulant medication was prescribed as a trial, and it turned her son around. The violence stopped and he began to learn. He could finally focus long enough to begin reading, and he could control his impulses in class. He was paying attention, raising his hand and receiving positive feedback for the first time in his young life. She was so relieved, and yet her husband refused to allow him to continue with the medication. He told me if I was a better parent, our son wouldn't have these problems. He accused me of causing her son's ADHD because I was playing high energy games with him when he was a toddler. Kelly continued to secretly give her son the medication for another year before her husband found out. I simply could not bear to watch my son struggle and suffer at school, so I continued to give him the medication secretly. When my husband found out, it made my life a living hell. He put me under constant surveillance and I was crucified and my marriage broke up. She said, adding in hindsight, it had been for the best. I realised I could not walk the slippery tightrope of trying to please everyone any longer. My children deserved a strong mother who would advocate for their best interests. Secretly on a week, she had custody, which she vaccinated when she used it to vaccinate her children. I went ahead and had them vaccinated. And I and the children have got rights, I told him after the fact. The daughter also became a battleground. Born with a developmental condition which required surgery to correct their daughter suffers from a recurrent infections that usually require treatment with antibiotics. Kelly's now ex-husband refuses to administer them whenever she has an infection because they share care week on and week off. The course of medication is never finished in her father's care. He believes I should not be able to prevent. He believes I should be able to prevent her infections with natural remedies at home rather than her prescription medication. In his eyes, I am a failure because she continues to experience infections. Kelly knew her mother-in-law was a fan of colloid silver, and she was treating the children with her go-to magic potion. Colloid silver is a natural antibiotic and healing agent when applied topically. Oral ingestion can literally turn your skin blue. Paul Carranza from Washington died in 2013 when he was called Blue Man after self-medicating colloid silver. It can be toxic and harmful to kidney and liver functions. There is no oral products licensed for sale in Australia, and the Therapeutic Goods Administration has recalled several cases of poisoning from oral ingestion. Kelly's mother-in-law recommended her clients drink it, and she administered it to her grandchildren without Kelly's consent. When my 10-year-old son told me she was giving it to him behind my back, I knew I had to do something. My children needed me, and I spoke up. Kelly went to Queensland's health ombudsman, who contacted the mother-in-law. She denied everything and said that they did not have enough evidence to proceed, she said. Kelly had her son's blood tested. The normal level of silver in the blood should be less than 0.02 molar units per litre. Her son's was 6.43 to 300. That was 320 times the normal level. The public health unit investigated, and again the mother-in-law denied it all. No further action was taken. Kelly's mother-in-law, on the other hand, attempted to take out an apprehended violence order. She sought retribution. Twice she has tried to obtain domestic violence protection orders against me, claiming that I was harassing her and that I was malicious and an unfit mother. The purpose of these domestic violence prosecution orders are to prevent genuine victims of my mother-in-law as abused and misused the legal process in attempt to bully and silence me. Speaking out to protect your children is not domestic violence. Thankfully, the magistrate threw her out, she says. Kelly is now a single mother and only works part-time. She's applying to legal aid so she can take the issue further. But she's still stuck with having to let her children, who are both in primary school, return down the rabbit hole every second week. She believes that I'm poisoning my children because I've chosen to treat them with legal prescription medications. She lives in a topsy-turvy, upside-down, opposite world. Sunscreen is toxic, vaccinations are deadly, and fluoride is being used to dumb us down, Kelly has said. What is becoming apparent is that the alternative medicine field is very adept at reinforcing conspiracies about Western medicine. 15-year-old Alex Wheeler died when his parents refused to treat his diabetes with insulin, and we've talked about that case a couple of months ago. An autopsy revealed that he died from bacterial sepsis from the complications of neglect and starvation due to type 1 diabetes. She says that my mother-in-law has her own clinic and presents herself to the public as a health professional. We've seen this before. This is part of their trying to gain a seat at the table. And learning and behavioural specialist. This is a trusted role as a self-proclaimed expert. She advises parents not to immunise their children and diagnoses children's behavioural problems as vaccine injuries and sells various unproven, unregulated and illegal goods and services. Naturopaths and kynologists are not, and the like, are not registered medical professionals. Anyone can can out and shine the practice. Therein lies the root of the problem. The bottom line, it is unprofessional and unethical for unqualified people to play doctor. This is what I've been saying for the longest time on this channel. And endanger people's lives, and they need to be held accountable, Kelly says. I'm the one voice trying to protect my children from a family member who has been deluded and duped by pseudoscience. It should not be this hard to stop charlatans and quacks. I should not be dealing with this alone. It shouldn't be my responsibility to discipline my mother-in-law as an alt-med practitioner and compel her to practice ethically. I'm waiting for the day when someone other than me will tell her what she's doing is wrong and illegal. I'm sharing my story in the hope that it can make a difference. Please don't let another mother go through the hell I've been through. If you have concerns about unethical alternative practitioner, contact the health commissioner in your state and report them, she urges. So, this is an unusual story, particularly when it comes to alt medicine practitioners advocating, unproven conspiracy theories. I mean, going to, as it said here, sunscreen is toxic. I mean, this is in Australia, something where sun caused illnesses, particularly skin cancer, is really prevalent, and not using sunscreen I can't imagine not going to Australia and not using sunscreen. That is just outrageous in this. And not, vaccines are deadly and fluoride is being used to dumb us down. That's the exact same type of thing Alex Jones has been banging on about for years. There's fluoride in the water, it's dumbing you down. And then, obviously, she has this position, as she said, she's positioned herself as a health professional and learning and behavioural specialist, even though she has no degree or qualifications in either of those two areas. And it goes on to be really even more dangerous, because obviously she's advising parents not to immunise their children, and any that are coming in with ADHD or behavioural problems or the like, she's then saying, oh, these are vaccine injuries. And I have to once again say, this appears really to be a problem with the Australian medical system, and particularly what appears to be the political establishment failing to regulate these people. But even as we've said, in the UK we have regulation, but it is not good enough. In fact, remember, these people lobbied to be self-regulating, and they even fail at self-regulating. And you can point to also similar examples in states that have set up their own chiropractic board, but there are no official real doctors or anything like that. It's just other chiropractors, and it's done purely as PR and to protect chiropractors, not the patients. And it's the same, it's the same in the UK with the story we covered last week. You had a chiropractor who killed a patient by severely damaging their spine, and she's still allowed to practice. That is absolutely insane, and it should be absolutely, just as a society, it's something we should just not allow. But there we have it, and unfortunately, these people have quite popular bases and quite popular fan bases. I mean, it would be interesting to see what would happen, for example, if a campaign was actually started in Australia to actually try and regulate these people. You'd very quickly see, I think, a counter movement against it, and that would be, if that ever happens in Australia, I'd be very interested to see which side would win and which side would come out on top. Again, we'll have to see, but there has to be the political will, and part of that political will has to be the people of Australia realising that chiropractors, homeopaths, the kynopaths, all these alternative people who practice, alternative medicine are not real doctors and can do incredible harm. I mean, the woman here in this, is giving a known toxin to children. There's very little you can honestly say about that isn't bad, but that's where we are, and that's where we sit. Unfortunately, there's very little I can do sitting here in the UK, and I'm currently composing a letter to Dan Jarvis about the General Chiropractic Council and the fact that their regulatory status needs to be taken away from them and put in the hands of a proper regulated government approved body where chiropractors are not sitting on the board and it is real doctors, so that they can actually assess any real damage and injury that should potentially occur to a patient. That's sensible, to be honest. Chiropractors will be like, but that's the way it goes.